Citi
News.
It's midday. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Citi Prime News, which is live from our studios at number 11 Dr. Morton Loop in Adabraka, Accra. It's also live on all our partner stations across the country. In the Western region, we're on Adrimpa 100.7 FM in Takwa, Beach 105.5 FM in Takrani. In the Bono region, we're on Greener 95.9 FM in Sunyani. In the Ashanti region, we're on Adrimpa 99.9 FM in Inkarie. In the Volta region, we're on Heritage 107.3 FM in Hohoi and Freedom 88.1 FM in Sugakope. In the Northern region, we're on Radio Gaki 88.3 FM in Saboba. Upper East region, we're on Quality 88.7 FM in Garu. Upper West region, we're on Ganga 94.3 FM in Jirapa. And in the Northeast region, we are on Nobia FM 98.1 FM in Nalirugu. The news is also live across the globe on citinewsroom.com. I am Wilma Obuobisa Coleman, and this afternoon I'm here with
Owusu Kumi.
Coming up, 3 teacher unions embark on a sit-down strike over government's refusal to revoke appointment of new Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa.
Consequently, we have decided to embark on strike from today, Friday, 4th November 2022. By this, we are informing the general public that we are withdrawing all our services.
Meanwhile, the aggrieved teacher unions are in meeting with the Unemployment and Labour Ministry over the impasse. Still to come, stakeholders in the agriculture sector call for the dismissal of Agric Minister Dr. Owusu Efriyakutu.
So the objectives and the focus are totally disconnected. So we never find sustainable policies. So what exactly has this Agric Minister achieved in all these years, apart from throw money at things?
And later, organizers of Kumi and Preku demonstration revealed their readiness for the intended protest on Saturday, November 5.
He has overlived his welcome. He himself said it, that he needs just 18 months to change the structure of the economy. It's been 6 years, so he's had quadruple.
Stay tuned as we bring you details of all that and more on the Citi Prime News.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. We'll settle for the details of our stories now. Into a first story, 3 teacher unions are calling for the revocation of the appointment of the new Director General for the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa. They have begun an indefinite strike. The unions are the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and Coalition of Concerned Teachers, Ghana, CCT. The industrial action follows the expiration of the November 4 deadline given the president to rescind his decision. Addressing the media, President of NAT, Reverend Isaac Owusu, said they will not call off the strike until government addresses their concerns.
We finally caution that should government fail to heed our call, leadership of the teacher unions will not be able to control the actions and inactions of their members, and the Ministry of Education and GES may have themselves to blame in the final analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, call to action. We have been compelled, under the current circumstances, to publicly communicate to Ghanaians on our intention to go on strike, having reached the November 4 deadline we gave the government. Consequently, we have decided to embark on strike from today, Friday, 4th November 2022. By this, we are informing the general public that we are withdrawing all our services in all the pre-tertiary education institutions.
You had the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Reverend Isaac Owusu. Meanwhile, some of these aggrieved teacher unions are locked up in a meeting with the Employment and Labour Ministry on the impasse over the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as Director General of the Ghana Education Service. The teacher unions already have declared a strike in protest of the appointments. The unions, mainly NAGRAT and NAT, and the Education Ministry have taken entrenched positions on the propriety of the appointment of Dr. Nkansa.
Now, a rice farmer and former Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hosi, has called for the dismissal of the Agric Minister. According to him, the minister has done little to support farmers to improve on their crop production since he took office. Speaking on the City Breakfast Show, Senor Hosi described the government's Planting for Food and Jobs initiative as a failure, arguing that it has yielded no results 6 years after implementation.
Food is a matter of life and death and the sustainability of any society. So anyone in the help of that affairs must really be very focused and spending so much money in the sector should actually yield us sustainable impact. That has failed. It's been 6 years of throwing a lot of money under this Planting for Food and Jobs. I can't find one single industry that has been well structured sustainably that positions Ghana for proper leadership. Not one. That is a key failure. And anytime we discuss numbers relative to the success of that kind of policy, all kinds of wild numbers are thrown around. And those of us in the industry even question the accuracy of this data. Our government don't have full capacity because they actually focus and see agric more as a social intervention other than a commercial and sustainable business that has social impact. So the objectives and the focus are totally disconnected. So we never find sustainable policies. So what exactly has this agric minister achieved in all these years, apart from throw money at things?
That was a rice farmer and former Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hosi.
Now, the General Agricultural Workers Unions has joined calls for the dismissal of the Agric Minister, Dr. Owusu Efriyakutu. According to GAU, the minister has underperformed, a situation they say accounts for the high prices of food on the Guinean market. Speaking to City News, General Secretary of GAU, Edward Kariwe, says the president must do the needful to prevent the situation from escalating.
If he has a mandate and he's not delivering on his mandate and he's creating costs, because the Planting for Food and Jobs program alone, the government has spent over 4 billion Ghana cedis on it, and yet there's nothing to show. So the call is even long overdue. It is not for the minister to resign, and I know he will not resign. It is for the president to sack him, because he has an employer, and he's not, even for the recent thinking that he wants to go to a rural area to engage in transportation. That alone is even enough for him to be dismissed. How much more is failure, monumental failure in managing the Planting for Food and Jobs and putting all of us in this food crisis, and then he doesn't want to own up to that responsibility, but rather trying to claim that Ghana has got enough food. It is only that our neighbors do not have. I mean, he should be sacked tomorrow because he cannot be the face of agriculture. He cannot lead the Ghanaians in transforming agriculture into the future.
Mr. Kari also described as misplaced priority the minister's decision to cut food from the hinterlands to Accra to sell at cheaper prices at the ministry.
It's a call that we think is not well thought through. It's a call that we think is just a populist one. It's a call that if we allow it to go on, it will lead to creating financial loss to the state, in the sense that it is not going to achieve any purpose, yet it will create, cost for the state. There are many dynamics that relate to agricultural production and distribution of agricultural produce. The ministry has got a role to play in policy formulation and helping for the implementation of those policies. But what the ministry is trying to do is to become a middleman to now engage in the value chain to cut food from the rural areas to the urban centers. I'm saying this particular role has always been played well by the stakeholders in it. And if for the fact that prices in the urban areas are high, we need to investigate the reasons. And what the ministry and the minister is trying to tell us is that there's cheaper food in the rural areas that is high in the urban area. And I'm saying this is not something new. There's always a difference when it comes to prices. Prices at the farm gate is always different than prices at the market center.
Gao is of the opinion that government must rather deal with the root cause of the hike in food prices instead of always looking for knee-jerk reactions to issues which arise.
The causes of the food going up are known. So if you want to deal with the high price of the food, you simply deal with the causes. One of the major causes is the fuel price increase, which is done almost daily. If you are able to abate the fuel price increases, then of course you will be dealing with that part. Transporters use fuel, and when the fuel price goes up, you don't expect that they will get money somewhere to buy fuel and then come and they will not transfer it to the consumer. So that's one thing, and government needs to deal with that. So there's no cheap solution. So what the ministry is trying to do is a cheap solution. One, we may even going to ask question. One, are you going to engage in this exercise just for 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, or when? This view that because the minister has all along been touting that the Planting for Food and Jobs program is 100% successful. He's trying to create the impression that after all there's food, only that middlemen are profiteering. But it will not wash because the reality is that the country doesn't have enough food. It doesn't have enough food. We are not also working hard to make sure that we facilitate the easy transportation of food from the farm gate to the urban area. In the sense that the roads to the farm gate so deplorable, fuel prices are going up. All those ones, it is not a good facilitation to bring food from the farm gate to the market area. So their whole exercise is not going to work well.
You had the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Kariwet, joining calls by the rice farmer and former Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyor Hosi, calling for the resignation of the Agric Minister.
Now, the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, is predicting a shortage of goods this festive season. GUTA recently led some traders in Accra to lock up shops in protest of the depreciating cedi and general economic difficulties. President of the union, Joseph Obing, in an interview with Citi News, says the drop in the value of the cedi against the dollar has eroded the capital of traders and has made them unable to import goods.
If you look at what is happening now, the fact that most businesses have gotten their capitals depleted and eroded by about 50%, then it looks like we will not be able to bring the same volume of goods that we used to bring the previous year. And then the prices may not also be as it used to be, where the abundance of goods also ensure that prices are very low. So if you look at that, then I can foresee that it's not going to be like the previous Christmas. As long as policies like benchmark being increased, now benchmark values have been increased over 60%. Then the consumers should look at that direction. Sometimes they don't have to look at the traders. They have to look at the policymakers, the things that they do. Now, these values have been increased by 60%. Then, of course, you should know that the import duties will go up. That will affect the prices of goods.
Dr. Obing tells Citi News that GUTA is in agreement with the President's suggestions of industrialization and limited importations, but believes this must be done in areas where Ghana has competitive advantage.
If you want to sustain our forest, if we want to make sure that the country is progressing, and so we are all for it, but we have to know if we say that we want to industrialize and consume what is our own, we should be able to identify those areas that we have the comparative advantage here in Ghana so that our lots will be better than to just go in any area that we do not have the competitive advantage. When it happens like that, then it will be an exercise in futility. You see, let's take for instance, importation has become extremely difficult these days. But how the local manufacturing entities taking advantage? They are unable to take the advantage because there's a thin line between the manufacturing as we are doing here now compared to the importation that we do. Because they also import almost about 90% their production and input.
Dr. Joseph Obing is president of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations.
Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has disagreed with persons who believe he is clueless on how to fix the country's economy. Mr. Ofori-Atta believes he has what it takes to turn around the ailing Ghanaian economy. The finance minister has been under intense pressure from parliamentarians within and outside party to leave post for mismanaging the economy. Speaking at a meeting with the Association of Ghana Industries, Ken Ofori-Atta says Ghana remains the best destination to do business.
To assure you that you have a finance minister who has gone through all the pains and aches, and nobody can really come and say you don't understand what we are doing. The question is, what resources do we have and how are we going to deploy them in the nation that we have, and how do you stand firm in very difficult circumstances, but being very confident that the nation is purposed for greatness, and you are blessed to have the opportunity to lead where we are going. And let me assure you all that your best bet is still Ghana. We can do it, and we should do it.
You heard the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta.
Still on matters of the economy, many residents in Kumasi are lamenting the harsh impacts of the current economic crisis being experienced in the country. Because of the frequent increases in prices of various commodities, they want the government to institute measures to relieve Ghanaians of their suffering. While some are calling for price control mechanisms to be put in place to streamline the market, others want the government to come up with strategies to restore confidence in the Ghanaian economy. Citi News' Bureau Chief for the Middle Belt, Edward Opomafo, reports.
It is obvious that Ghana's current economic crisis is biting many people very hard. Residents in Kumasi, for instance, say the situation keeps getting worse every day. Opare Benjamin, a NADMO official, tells Citi News that following the increase in petroleum products, he has parked his vehicle and now uses public transport to work.
Currently, I have a 2.2 engine at home, a Camry. It's parked because we have to use it only on Sundays. You cannot use it every day. Now, price of petrol is going up for about 70 plus or so. Diesel is around 100 plus. And you want to use an engine which is about 2.2, you can imagine the traffic and stuff. Okay, so cars have been parked. Transport fares, this morning for instance, I take two taxis before I get to office. I have to take one and walk for the rest. And if you want to do same, if you take a taxi from where I stay, Bremen, to my office at regional office, it's going to take about 10 cedis just in. Then the out is about 10 cedis, the same thing, and it's 20. And how much are you going to eat? You see it. And our salaries are also just the same. So personally, this is what I've been going through, and you need to cut down on certain things, otherwise you can't survive.
Matthew Sapon, a banker, shares a similar story. He says he has cut down on his expenditure significantly, and more often, boards public transport to his workplace.
For the past 6 weeks, I normally don't buy stuff like food I used to eat outside. I've cut down on that. So I'm trying as much as possible to eat only home cooked food for now, because actually we don't know what is going to happen. And from the indicators and from the people I've spoken to, it doesn't really look good. Just today I saw on Citi that the CEO of Dalex Finance was begging the president. So it shows that, and he is an expert, he is in the industry. I work in the financial industry and things are not okay. Because for the first time, for the past 7 years that I've been in the industry, the Monetary Policy Committee has increased interest rates for more than 5 times that I can remember between February and now. And it makes it hard for households to take loans. I work in the payroll loan, the government workers sector, and a lot of people are finding it difficult. Even as at now that prices are increasing, they don't find it easy to acquire loans any longer. Some have to wait till January that salary increments will come before. So it's hard for everybody. It's hard, and I don't know. The worst part has been that there isn't any, the managers of our economy are not showing any headway. That's the sad part. Transportation currently, I used to take a lot of drops or maybe Uber, and I've cut that out. I think as for that one day, I stopped like 3 months ago because the charges and everything is absurd. Even I live at Bibiakon. When you are coming to town right now, dropping will take no less than 70 Ghana cedis. And how much have I made today? To use 70 Ghana for just transportation to. Why am I going to Accra? No, it hasn't been easy. But these days, we take a lot of trot. If there are distances that are shorter, you walk. If you think you are going to sweat, walk slowly, but just set off early so that you can meet the appointment or something like that. Then you'll be fine.
Operator Benjamin believes introducing a price control mechanism will help prevent the phenomenon where prices of various commodities keep increasing, leading to a worsening of the situation.
I think we need to even introduce a price control system, just like it was existing in the old times. Otherwise, everybody will just, who is selling anything, will just have to increase the price as and when he or she feels like.
Although transport fares have recently been increased, some drivers say their situation has not improved. Isaac Odro is a taxi driver who runs the Stadium to Adum route.
I'm a taxi driver.
I am a taxi driver. The increase in the price of petroleum products is affecting us negatively. On Sunday, I bought fuel for 250 Ghana cedis, but after I closed from work, I made sales of 260 Ghana cedis. I made profits of only 10 cedis. Why are we suffering in this country like this? We want authorities to find ways of reducing the prices of petroleum products for us. Drivers who go to Burkina Faso say fuel is much cheaper over there as compared to Ghana. Why are the authorities making us suffer? We had confidence in Anado to turn our fortunes around, but that has not been the case.
Many residents in Kumasi have been sharing their struggles with Citi News.
We need them to say clearly what they are intending to do, what they are doing, and what they are intending to do to get us out of this. Because we are suffering. Now we used to sell these things 20 cedis. Now this is as high as 40 cedis. You cannot blame anybody because the dollar is appreciating every day, and the city keeps depreciating. They are blaming traders. We the traders, we are not contributing anything. If the dollar is down, why would we sell it at a high price? But now they are trying to put the blame on we the traders. I mean, they should take the blame. They should accept it and find a way out because this is not the time to play blames. We appointed them to fix the problem, to solve it, and not to blame anybody. This is not the time to blame anybody.
I give my 4 children 60 Ghana cedis each day for school. How much will I spend on them by the end of the month? It wasn't like that previously. Due to the financial difficulties, my children do not go to school regularly. Even today, only 2 of them went to school. The other 2 didn't go because I didn't have money to give them. I am a plumber. I hardly get opportunities to work and make money. I can go a whole month without getting a contract. How am I going to solve this problem? I am not satisfied with the way the president is governing the country at all.
Times are really hard now. We are all suffering. For traders, we have realized that prices keep going up all the time. The items are increased by huge margins.
It's obvious that many Ghanaians are going through difficult economic times. But the question remains, when will this be over? For Citi News, I'm Edward Oponmafo, Kumasi.
And in studio, I'm Wilma Obuobisa Coleman with Charles Owusu Kumi. Bring you more stories. The Member of Parliament for Isuojaman, Thomas Nyako Ampem, is calling on leadership of Parliament to consider 2 sittings in a week due to the recent increases in fuel prices. The MP says the House could consider sitting for about 8 hours in a day for the proposed 2 days to save cost on fuel for the week. The MP made the call during the presentation of the business statement for the ensuing week by the Majority Leader, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu.
Mr. Speaker, looking at the kind of business that we have, is it not possible to consider, we can stay for 6 hours a day. Instead of coming 2 hours, we go back, drive here 2 hours, we go back. half the day, if it's even 8 hours, we'll be willing to stay, do the business for like two days, and then save the 3,000. That way, we can save like 500 cedis on fuel every week. And this will also be in line with the proposal by President Mahama to organizations to allow those who can work from home to do so, because the fuel situation is killing us, Mr. Speaker.
You heard the Member of Parliament for Issue, Jaman Thomas Nyako Amping. Now, in his response, the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, described the call as an unfortunate one that could have dire consequences on the economy.
I mean, we are all in this country, we all buy fuel. I will know that fuel prices have indeed gone up. Of course, we may disagree on the cost of it. I relate to the price at international levels. I know that crude price now has gone up, it's escalated dramatically. You do know that. Of course, the other factor we must also admit is the strength of our local currency now. So the combination of the two factors, one must admit. Having said so, Speaker, when we are in dire circumstances, that is when we are called upon to increase productivity. And for a member of parliament to say that we should work in just 2 days in a week, the Speaker, that is a very apocalyptic declaration from the member of parliament. What will be the effect on national productivity? This call that you are making. And what will be the effect on GDP? I think that really is an unfortunate call on us that we should be working for just 2 days in a week. Mr. Speaker, and he says that President Mahama has made a request for people to work from their home. There's only one president in this country, one executive president in this country, and nobody can pretend to share power with that president. Whether it's a former president or a future president.
You heard the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu.
We stay in Parliament, where the minority wants the government to probe allegations of the training of some mercenaries at Esuchari. The group's call follows an expose by social media commentator Kelvin Taylor, which revealed the alleged training of some mercenaries by a top security officer at the Jubilee House. Speaking to journalists, the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga, says the government must speak to the issue.
The minority takes very serious view of the expose and would invite this government to say a word about the expose. Is it true that mercenaries have been brought into this country and are being trained at Esuchari? They are taken by escort to Esuchari every morning by bus and trained. Who are they? Are they part of the mainstream security? If not, are we not flouting the Constitution? Are we not raising a parallel armed force contrary to the dictates of our Constitution? I think we would call for an independent probe into this matter. It is very worrying. We can't just go to sleep. The expose has been out there for the past 3 days. I was waiting patiently to hear from at least the National Security Minister, the Interior Minister. They should speak to the issue. Is it true that they are training mercenaries? The deafening silence on the part of government is worrying. It is against this backdrop that I would want to use a medium to call for an independent probe to ascertain or establish the veracity of the allegations made by Kevin Taylor. I'd also want to use this opportunity to invite the international community, the African Union, the ECOWAS Secretariat, to take a very serious view of this matter. The National Peace Council, they should not wait. These are dark clouds gathering over our political landscape. If they don't speak out, they want to wait for these thugs who are now being trained, according to the allegation, to disrupt our polls. That portends grave danger for our democratic experiment.
Ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, James Agalga.
You're still listening to the Citi Prime News, which is live from our studio at Adabraka in Accra. Still to come in this bulletin, organizers of Kumi and Preku demonstration reveal their readiness for their intended protest on Saturday, November 5, to demand better economic conditions. Do stay with us. We'll have details shortly.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
You're welcome back. Organizers of the Kumi and Preku demonstration have disclosed their readiness to hold a planned protest on Saturday. The protest is to demand better economic conditions from the government and to call on the president to resign over what they describe as bad governance. Ghana's economy has been saddled with hardships, which has currently led the country to seek an International Monetary Fund (IMF) bailout. Ahead of the protest, one of the organizers of the demonstration, Martin Kwebu, says the only way to get the country back on track is to have the president and his vice vacate their posts.
President gave is basically President Akufo-Addo talking in 2016. The thrust of the speech, the main thing that will get us out of the trouble is changing our economy, changing the structure of the economy in such a way that we are no longer import dependent, that we do local production. And that was the mantra of President Akufo-Addo in 2016. You heard him saying Gajisberg economy, Gajisberg economy. So the Gajisberg parties that were exporting raw materials, not adding much value. You heard him saying so. So now we need to add more value. And yet, he said he was going to change from the Gajisberg economy within 18 months. That's 1.5 years. Here we are 6 years down the line. He's not been able to do it. So what encourages you or makes you believe that the remaining 2 years he can do it? No, he has overlived his welcome. He himself said it, that he needs just 18 months to change the structure of the economy. It's been 6 years, so he's had quadruple, because double will be 3 years, triple will be 4.5 years. Then quadruple, 6 years. So he has just overlived his welcome. He has to go. And you heard him say the time President Kufuor was leaving, $1, 1 cedi. Then when Atta Mills came, it became $1, 2 cedis. How? If it were him, he would have resigned. But the people we are dealing with have no integrity. So if $1 is equal to 2 cedis, and those people have no integrity, then $1 equal to 14 cedis. I don't know. There's no dictionary word for it. We have to invent a new word because all the dictionary words will not be strong enough.
Martin Kwebu is one of the organizers of the Kumi and Preku demonstration. Meanwhile, security analyst and a member of the organizing team for the protest, Adib Sani, implored participants to be law-abiding during the demonstration.
We are also receiving information that there's a possibility that some bad nuts might try to infiltrate. So I wish to appeal to you to keep an eye on your brother. Let's be each other's keeper. If you see anything untoward, do not hesitate to reach out to the police or even the protest leaders. And if you are in a situation you neither can reach out to the protest leaders or the police, you can call the police line. And let's ensure that we don't have individuals infiltrating and marring the whole event. COVID is still an excuse, but it goes without saying that COVID should have actually rather made us rich. There are over $2.5 billion that came as a result of COVID should have made us a rich country. We had the highest test figure in the world, $150 for anyone coming into the country, with estimates putting it at over $30 million every month. And the diplomatic community protested and nobody was willing to listen because someone very close to the corridors of power is involved. What procurement processes went into that in the first place? So we are a sick country and it has to be healed, and it starts with us. We cannot afford to continue bickering. We have to let politicians understand that we wield the power. We gave them the power, they have no power. We are the bosses, we employed them, and we can equally fire them. We pay for everything they do.
That was security analyst Adib Sani.
Now, the Eastern Regional Water Quality Assurance Manager of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Moses Pencil, is asking the government to rotate military officers deployed to halt illegal mining. Mr. Pencil is of the view that this would forestall any familiarity between the officers and persons involved in the menace. Government, as part of its efforts to end illegal mining, has deployed a team of military officers to aid in the fight. Sharing his expert opinion at Citi FM and Citi TV's Galamsey dialogue on the theme Galamsey, a threat to water security, Moses Pencil, among other things, said the discharge of the same crop of military officers could compromise them.
just the same way that the pastors went around to tour the Galamsey sites, I think I want to throw it to the House of Chiefs to also do a similar thing. You know, in solid waste engineering, there's this thing called not in my backyard syndrome, where they don't usually allow landfill sites to be sited in their communities to handle solid waste management or solid waste issues. If our chiefs can also declare as custodians of the land that for Galamsey issues, not in my backyard, we'll go far. That's one. Number two, I also want to say to the security agencies that, yes, they should not wait for the media land scale to come up with the issues before they do the sweeps or go around. But they should have some periodic movements. Yeah, if maybe once in 3 months they go on site, check what is happening, it would be good. And I want to advise that they should not retain the same officers at the same place, because sometimes they become familiar with the people and they are easily not able to deal with the issues. But when they are moved around or rotated, it can help normalize the situation or address the situation that we are facing. Then to my colleague or senior colleague from Water Resources Commission, I think that the prayer basin should be looked at again. If they can find a way to improve upon their management style for the prayer basin, it will help us a lot.
Moses Pintle is the Eastern Regional Water Quality Assurance Manager of the Ghana Water Company Limited. Also at the dialogue, a senior lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, Dr. Ajwa Urintifianko, charged stakeholders to do away with the blame games and rather tackle the issue head-on.
Looking at the issues related to Galamsey, we are not, dealing with small-scale mining anymore. Small-scale mining, we are looking at using basic tools. Now we are dealing with excavators, chamfer machines. So this is something that needs to be dealt with head-on. And then secondly, I want to say that, as someone mentioned, it looks as if we tend to play the blame game, right? I believe that as Ghanaians, we all have to take responsibility, and we have to play the role that we need to play. When I think about these issues, one thing I realize is that most of us are not patriotic. That is why it looks as if we are not thinking about country and future generations. So it's important for us to, this patriotism thing, we need to find a way to bring it back. Several years back, I think we saw this many times Ghana played football and all that. But it's something that is missing from Ghana. And I think it's something we need to work with, as well as a change in our mentality.
Dr. Ajwa Urintifianko is a senior lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration.
Now, public health officers from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, AMA, have arrested 16 persons for defecating in the open. The 16 persons were arrested during the early hours of Wednesday, November 2, when the Sanitation Task Force of the Assembly, led by environmental health officers, embarked on a special operation within the Okaikwe South Metropolitan District. The operation is part of continuous efforts to curb open defecation in the metropolis and ensure a clean and hygienic environment. Head of Public Affairs of the AMA, Gilbert Ni Ankara, in an interview with the media, said the culprits would be given the option to pay a spot fine or face prosecution.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has arrested some 16 persons for openly defecating in the public. Others were also caught pouring liquid waste into the drain from buckets they have stored them into. And so basically that is what the situation is as I speak to you now. The Public Health Department of the Assembly, the officers who arrested these persons are currently processing them for court. They have options to either pay a spot fine, if not, they will be processed for court. So that is what is happening now. Yesterday, a couple of them who were not able to pay the spot fine were sent to the court for prosecution.
You had the head of public affairs of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Gilbert Ni Ankara.
Now, government is urging persons in the creative industry to subscribe to various pension plans so they can be financially stable when they retire. In recent years, there has been conversation surrounding the retirement plans of creatives in the country, saying some veterans within the space tend to go broke and solicit for funds in their old age. Speaking at an investment forum in Accra, Deputy Minister of Tourism Mark Okrekumantis stressed on the importance of pensions plans for people within the industry.
Over the years, we've heard, even if you've not seen one, we hear on radio how some of our veterans retire and the issues around their old age. I am lucky to have worked with Damro for some time, and I saw musicians come around, and anytime I tracked their records, they were huge in the 70s and 80s. But in their latter days, some of the things we saw and heard about them were not tasteful. And so today, please, let's take this conversation seriously. Let's have some down-to-earth conversation with the insurance companies and the investment bankers here. Ask them all the questions you want to ask. The insurance companies too, please have all the time and the tolerance for the creative industry. Give them all you have to give. If you do not have packages for them, hear from them, go back, customize what you can do for them, and then let's meet again another time. Let them know what you have for them, because we must kill this problem once and for all. Nobody will feel your pain for you, and nobody would want to know or will know how you want to retire than yourself. I know how I want to retire, and I'm sure you also know how you want to retire.
Mark Okrekumantis is the Deputy Minister for Tourism.
The La Traditional Council is raising concerns over the lack of adequate U-turns on the La Beach Road as part of the current rehabilitation works currently ongoing. The rehabilitation works, which is expected to be completed in the first quarter of 2023, will see the construction of a new 2/3 lane bridge over the Kweshi Lagoon. But the traditional authority says the removal of some U-turns on the road would cause inconveniences to drivers and residents as well. Speaking during an inspection tour on the project, a member of the council, Ni Ejay, says continuous stakeholder meetings about the project should be held concurrently to avert any future misunderstandings.
But our main concern is about the U-turns that are going to be removed. And ideally, you should have engaged us with this before the project starts, so that the community will be aware of what changes they are going to face, and then they prepare their minds towards that. So we are still taking their concerns. Some even want to go on demonstration.
I don't think
yes,
as you said,
yes. So you have to take their concerns, and if there is a need for any adjustment or amendment that wouldn't be of an inconvenience and a problem to you, you do that so that the community will be at peace. But in the meantime, people are complaining about vehicles knocking people down. So you need to put in place measures that will forestall such happenings. We will also talk to the community folks to be careful when they are going to cross the road, but you should also work on the management so that such things wouldn't happen.
You heard a member of the La Traditional Council, Ni Ejay. Meanwhile, the resident engineer, Kweku Diafo, says the limited U-turns on the road is to help curb road crashes.
From the hospital to the traffic light here. Okay. That traffic light will control all movement here. Okay. So there's a phase that will allow those coming from the hospital to either go here, or go here, or go like this.
So they can join to the Laboni road straight from here.
Straight from here. Instead of going to make a U-turn there. Okay. That's why that U-turn has been closed. One of the reasons, because U-turns, from the safety point of view, okay, safety point of view, it creates a lot of accidents. So if we can eliminate them, we'll eliminate them. I will turn all the way and come to the junction where the traffic light will control everything.
You had resident engineer working on the La Beach Road, Kweku Diafo.
The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, has urged individuals and organizations to take advantage of their research to maximize findings to maximize their businesses. This comes on the back of the launch of CSIR intellectual property policy, which seeks to protect the rights of its researchers in respect to innovations and technology developed. There is more in this report by Citi News' Anne Sheliziu.
Research institutions and scientists across the country have been urged to develop intellectual property policies for their organizations and put in place plans for implementing the policies developed. The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, which took heed to this advice, launched its intellectual property policy to protect the rights of its researchers. Chairman for the Council underscored the need for the Council to develop an intellectual property framework to guide their research and to enable them generate income from the commercialization of their works.
The CSR has developed a lot of technologies, which has been profiled, catalogued, and published for the information of the private sector, general public, and as a reference material. It is therefore gratifying that this IP policy has now been developed and published for the benefit of both the innovator and the CSIR. At Council, I remember that I have been quite vocal on the point that patency, as enumerated by organizations in Ghana, are on a very low side. And especially an organization like CSIR, which touts itself as the foremost scientific organization within the country, should have a lot of patents and benefit from. We have to be the pace setters.
Speaking at the launch, Director General of CSIR, Professor Paul Bonsu, urged individuals and organizations to take advantage of their research findings to maximize their businesses.
This policy that we have launched has the setup, the rules, the regulations, so that if anybody brings up an innovation, if any scientist develops something, it could even be a scientific paper, but more especially technology, or you need to be given the rights of ownership to that, so that people will not just come to use it and benefit from it and you will lose. To invite Ghanaians, especially industry and artisans, that now we have the rules, we have the regulations. We invite them to come closer, even as we also draw closer to them, that there are ways to benefit from our intellectual outputs, our technologies and others, and we can work together so that they will benefit, and CSI will also benefit. And here I'm talking about financial benefits, so that we'll continue to do more, motivate our scientists, and help build a better Ghana.
The Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kwekwe Friye, who said the policy was long overdue, urged them to put in place deliberate strategies and action plans for implementing the policies developed.
I want to see an implementation plan which also involves a good communication plan. Because if you go and register it in that office and you remain anonymous and silent on what you are doing, nobody will know what you're doing. We have to hire professionals to do this for us. And I want an institute, or if I may put it, an entity, which is equivalent to, let's say, STEPRI or any of your institutes, except that we cannot call it an institute because they will not be into research. But hierarchically speaking and equivalent, they should have all the equivalent that there is, so that they will be close their proper mandate to make sure that that part of your mandate that makes sure that you have to commercialize all scientific findings are properly applied.
Reporting for Citi News, my name is Anne Sheliziu.
And in studio, I'm Wilma Obuobisa Coleman with Charles Owusu Kumi. This is still the Citi Prime News broadcasting live from our studio at Adabraka in Accra. Still to come, World Bank stands to gain $26 billion by 2040 if the government takes climate resilience actions. And this is contained in the 2022 Country Climate and Development Report. Bring you the details after this break shortly.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
1xBet. Easy betting, easy winnings. 1xBet, the most reliable service to make deposits easily with high odds and numerous bonuses on the spot. Register now at 1xBet.com.gh. Use promo code BESTODDSGH to get 300% bonus up to 3,445 Ghana cedis on your first deposit. Easy to use, easy to have a chance to win. 1xBet, reliable bookmaker. Gambling can be addictive. Bet responsibly. Not for person under 18 years. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission.
Accra Girls Senior High School is holding its 62nd Speech and Prize-Giving Day on Saturday, 5th November 2022 at 12 noon on the school grounds. The theme for the day is building positive attitudes in the girl child, the role of stakeholders. Guest of honor, Mr. Daniel Macaulay, Group Chairman, McDan Group. Special guest of honor, Honorable John Intim Fojo, Deputy Minister of Education. Guest speaker, Mrs. Beatrice Ajiman, Group CEO of Media General. Chairperson, Professor Adelaide Katzner, Dean, Central University Business School. All are cordially invited. Come and let's celebrate. Agis, aim high.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, Ghana stands to gain 26 billion by 2040 if government takes climate resilient actions. This is contained in the 2022 Country Climate and Development Report. The World Bank is also called for the need to improve social protection systems for vulnerable groups to reduce the impact of climate change on the poor. There is more in the following report. We'll bring you that report shortly, but in the meantime, the stories that we've been bringing you, 3 teacher unions embark on a sit-down strike over government's refusal to revoke appointment of a new Director General for the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa. Meanwhile, the aggrieved teacher unions are in a meeting with the Employment and Labour Ministry over the impasse. We also brought you a story where stakeholders in the agricultural sector are calling for the resignation of the Agric Minister, Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto. We also brought you a story where organizers of the Kumi and Preko demonstration reveal their readiness for their intended protest on Saturday, November 5, to demand better economic conditions. Now we'll bring you the report of the World Bank, where Ghana stands to gain 26 billion by 2040 if the government takes climate resilient actions.
Ghana's economic and human development, just like other countries in the world, is also vulnerable to climate change and climate-related shocks. Since 1960, Ghana's average annual mean temperature has increased by around 1 degree Celsius. Rainfall has also become more erratic. Sea level rise along the West African coast have resulted in increased coastal erosion. As a result, weather and climate extremes have increased in frequency and magnitude, triggering floods, droughts, and heat waves that, associated with increased exposure, cause human losses, damages to public and private assets, and disruption of economic activities. Without prompt global and local climate actions, higher temperatures and heat stress will affect crop and labor productivity. More erratic rainfall patterns will damage infrastructure and buildings. Local air pollution and congestion will hamper human capital and productivity in cities. The World Bank report on country climate and development explores ways Ghana can pursue its development objectives while considering the challenges of climate change. In the immediate term, given current financing constraints and the time lag before which climate impacts will become critical, the World Bank suggests that Ghana should prioritize
the improvement in macro-fiscal fundamentals, including debt sustainability and credit worthiness. To be able to do this, the bank advises that there is a deliberate attempt to strengthen revenue mobilization, focus on broadening the tax base and reducing tax expenditures. Also, Ghana is advised to rationalize spending and address liability risks of state-owned enterprises while adopting clear and realistic fiscal and debt strategies. Again, the World Bank proffers that Ghana strengthens institutional capacity for climate action and legal framework through the establishment of climate policies anchored in law, participation in the global carbon markets. Also, the country must unlock private climate finance by improving the business environment in green technologies. Another major suggestion from the World Bank for Ghana to mitigate the impending impacts of climate change is the integration of agriculture development, forest and water development. This suggestion is more profound now as the country deals with the destruction of agricultural lands and forest areas through the activities of illegal mining. Per the World Bank, the most effective option for Ghana to tackle the climate crisis is to grow sustainably and reduce poverty through the adoption of climate actions. All other things being equal, fast-growing and prosperous countries will be much better placed to protect themselves from the most harmful effects of climate change. Therefore, sound macroeconomic management, a conducive business environment, and broad and nimble safety nets are key for building resilience and laying foundations for the low-carbon transition. The Bretton Woods Institution warns that there could be an increase in poverty rates by up to around 1 million people, with incomes reducing by up to 40% for poor households, if Ghana does not adopt measures early enough to mitigate the impact of climate change.
That report was filed by Citi News' Charles Owusu Kumi and read by Inu Safo. And that's how we end the Citi Prime News, which has been live from our studio at Adabraka in Accra. We're also live on our partner stations across the country. In the Western region, we're on Adrimpa 100.7 FM in Takwa and Beach 105.5 FM in Takrady. In the Bono region, we're on Greener 95.9 FM in Sunyani. In the Ashanti region, we're on Adrimpa 99.9 FM in Inkarie, and the Volta region, Heritage 107.3 FM in Hohoe, and Freedom FM 88.1 FM in Sugakope. In the Northern region, we're on Radio Gaki 88.3 FM in Saboba. In the Upper East region, we're on Quality 88.7 FM in Garu. Upper West, we're on Ganga 94.3 FM in Jirapa. And Northeast region, we're on Nobia FM 98.1 FM in Nalirugu. For more news, you can log on to our website, citinewsroom.com. I am Wilma Obuobisa Coleman, and this afternoon I was here with
Charles Owusu Kumi.
Netanel Nete brings you the afternoon's edition of the City Business News. Many thanks for your time. Do have a great day.
City 97.3. More variety.